Hey, welcome back to another video. It's Bad Drawing Nurse here, and today I wanted to talk about my first ever experience in a Code Blue. So the year's 2021. It is the fourth semester of my 6-semester nursing program, and we are in the middle of our Med-Surg clinical rotation. And by we, I mean it was me and a handful of my nursing colleagues. We were under the supervision of our CI, who wasn't just our CI for Med-Surg, but she was also the charge nurse for that hospital's emergency department. So much to our surprise, and for some to our fear, she was going to give us 1 day each in the emergency department. And then that got me thinking, do I see myself working in the ED? Even till then, 4 semesters into my nursing program, I still didn't know what specialty of nursing I saw myself in the future. And the more I thought about it, the more I was intrigued. So I wanted to take this opportunity to figure that out. And much to my surprise, I am the first of my batch to go. And I don't know if I was ready, but I for sure was sweating. And severe imposter syndrome started kicking in, and I just did my best to prepare myself for my first day in probably the most intense environment I've ever been in as a nursing student. And as the day came and I stood outside the ED doors just waiting to be let in by my CI, I took that time to really think about all the questions I might have, things I wanted to ask, things I wanted to do and experience. And then I just had to put in my game ready face. There's really no turning back from this point. I'm going in. And I mean, I could start listing all the cool stuff I experienced in the ED that day, but there's just so much that I got to experience for the first time that I'd probably want to save for another video. But some of that included the first ever thoracentesis I ever kind of sat through. It was awesome. And I got to try and help in phlebotomy drawing some labs from someone. I failed. And then I saw a stroke alert kind of happen, so be fast, all that stuff, NIH, really cool. But just starting off with me working with the nurse I was shadowing, it was really cool. He was really chill. And he would be talking about how, he was in my shoes before and that soon I'll be in his. And I just started asking a lot of questions about nursing school, job apps, how he likes the job and the money, if it's good, And right about that time is when it happened, the alarm rang. And then in my mind, I was just like, no way, Code Blue? I've never been in that before. And then the nurse I was shadowing was like, hey, CPR? And I'm like, excuse me, why would you ask that, man? And then turns out they want me to do CPR I've never done CPR before on anyone. And I was just, in my mind, the first thing that popped up was what I was telling myself before I went into the ED. And that's when I told myself, I need to act now and ask questions later. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities like this. For me, or let alone any nursing student out there, this is a huge learning opportunity to prepare yourself for when this same scenario happens again. But this time you'll be ready. And the story is with this lady, she was coming from SFO. She was on a flight and she just became unresponsive, went into cardiac arrest. So the EMTs got to her, and as they're wheeling her into our emergency department, we have a lady on top while the guy's pushing, and she's doing compressions on top of the gurney. A scene that I've only seen in movies, but never in real life. But the room that they're going in is all prepared, and there's a huge group of people just waiting to receive them. And sorry I made it seem like the phlebotomist and doctor are holding hands. They were not, but we were all kind of bunched up, just ready to hop in. That's not me. That's the RT ready to ambu-bag this patient to give her some breaths. And I'm actually not in this picture. I'm kind of on the side. And as this gurney is speed drifting its way down to the room that we've prepared for her, my preceptor gave me the green light and said, hey, you got this. Go do what you've been trained to do in those 3 or 4-hour long ACLS, BLS classes. Go try and save this patient. And I was like, okay. And my job was to basically relieve the paramedic that was doing compressions on this woman. I don't know how long she's been doing it for, but it was definitely due for her to switch, and that was my role. I switched off with her. I started doing compressions, and I was just supposed to do it until the other people in the room finished setting up what they called the Lucas device. And this thing is really dope. At the time, it was very new, and I've never seen one before. And apparently the hospital was only about a year into using it as well, so I think everyone was also relatively new to the device. But it was really cool because it automatically gives compressions on someone who needs it. And once they set it up on her, there we go. Compressions are now being done automatically. My job is done, right? You'd think. Nah, man. They had me stay. And you know what? I was happy that they did, because I don't think a lot of nursing students would have had the privilege to stay inside of a Code Blue. I know most of the time they don't even let them in to do things like do compressions, but they let me stay and they gave me tasks. They let me help. They wanted me to help attach leads. They wanted me to help hold on to things while they do the tasks that they're designated to do. The phlebotomist had me basically try and help draw the blood once she got the needle in this patient of ours, and as well as well, okay, I'm sorry about how he looks, but he's a relatively normal guy, and there was this machine, and he said, hey, plug this in. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. I could plug stuff in. And while I'm doing all those small things, I'm still studying what is happening around me in the code. What is going on? Why is it happening? What isn't happening? Like, I realized we weren't doing any shocks, and I was wondering why, because, usually you'd see in situations like these, there would be like the, zzz, clear, psh, and then they would cycle that with compressions and all that, but that wasn't happening. And so I kept that in the back of my mind so I could ask about it later on in the day. And once I saw that there wasn't really anything new happening during the code, and that there really wasn't much else for me to contribute inside of the room, I stepped out. And that's when things started to get even more difficult and complicated, because the son of the woman that we were doing compressions on was out there, and I ended up being the one to just kind of provide him some company and talk. He started explaining how he was on a trip with his mom, a family trip to Hawaii, and that they were coming from across the country and their layover was right here. And they didn't even make it to that second flight, because during that first flight, that's when everything started to go south. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, like, how do I respond? What do I do? What do I say? And it's in moments like this that I realized there really isn't much you can say. There isn't much you can do, but just listen. These are probably one of the most loneliest moments in someone's life, losing someone so close to them. And sometimes our role as nurses is to just be present and remind them that they're not alone. And unfortunately, the lady moved on. We weren't able to resuscitate her after a couple hours of trying, and the son was there during all of it. And so we gave him a lot of time to just gather his thoughts and his feelings. And the one thing he said that really stuck with me after all of this was the fact he was still happy that his mom at least passed during a non-stressful time in their life. It was just her and her family going for a trip together. So when I met back up with my nursing colleagues, I told them everything about what happened. They wanted to know if I really did get to participate in that Code Blue they heard overhead. And I talked about that, about all the cool stuff I learned, things I experienced, things that I've never seen before. And there were some things that I wasn't able to really explain to my friends in the moment. There were some things that required me some time to my own to really understand. And in the end of it all, what I realized is that there are things in nursing that the textbook just is not going to be able to teach you. And a lot of it you're going to get experiencing firsthand how to properly do. And one of which is how to communicate with someone. And what I learned that day is the best form of communication might just be to not communicate at all, and to just open up your ears and heart to someone who might really need it.